Hi Dixons, I'm Adam Clough, Trust Leader for Instruction. In my first video in this series, I explained how ratio describes the extent of our students' thinking, participation and accountability. In the second video, I discussed how effective teachers align classroom routines and strategies with the specific context of their subject and students. In this final video, I want to pull these ideas together and demonstrate how some common strategies, specifically in this video cold call and show call, can be used to maximise ratio. You're also going to see some clips of these practices in action to aid with clarity. In our classrooms, we want students to think hard, participate frequently, and be held accountable for both. This combination, which Doug Lemov refers to as ratio, can be achieved by strategically leveraging our routines and strategies. In order to be strategic and therefore increase ratio effectively, we must do a few things. First, we must create the enabling conditions for the strategies to be used with high fidelity. In other words, we want to establish a classroom culture of warm challenge, high expectations and high support. Second, we want to adapt our instruction to meet the demands of our subject, the needs of our students, and to reflect the context within which we are teaching. Finally, we really need to understand the primary purpose of key techniques. For example, cold call exists primarily to increase accountability and participation, while review now primarily enhances thinking. Essentially, what I'm getting at here is that this is necessarily a dynamic and adaptive process. There are no silver bullets. While numerous strategies can be used to enhance ratio, I'm going to focus on cold call and show call in this video, just in the interests of brevity and of clarity. Cold call ensures that every student is thinking and ready to participate because they don't know who will be chosen to answer the question. It could be them. It's especially effective, therefore, in promoting thinking ratio when the teacher pitches the question at the right level of difficulty, challenging enough to cause students to think deeply, but not so hard that they disengage. Participation ratio is developed because every student is engaged with answering the question, knowing that they might be called upon. For accountability, the expectation is set so that students must be ready to answer. Let's view a clip from my Year 8 French lesson. In this clip, you'll see me introducing the vocabulary of quantities. You'll notice that I'm primarily using cold call to maintain high participation. However, I really want to reiterate the point that this is all done dynamically and it's based on a deep knowledge of pedagogy, my subject and my students. You'll also notice how I have chunked the content to manage cognitive load, ensuring high thinking ratio. The positive culture I've built over time encourages participation without fear of negative feedback. You'll also notice how I quickly throw in a global call or response when I feel that participation ratio might have dipped. You'll notice how I ask one student a relatively easy question because I know I need to simulate success and support them with their anxiety, while I ask another student a pronunciation question because I know that from previous lessons this is a clear next step for them. Essentially what I'm getting at here is that following the structure of cold call does not in and of itself automatically increase ratio. Cold call coming, how do we pronounce this? I know you're going to get this right, this is fairly straightforward. Just keep an eye on that letter I, but we do say this word in English all the time anyway. Ketia. Please, yeah. Okay, almost perfect. I've underlined the letter D there. Why have I done that? Prince. You don't pronounce it, okay? Remember, the only letters we pronounce at the end of words are C, R, F, and L. You have to be careful to pronounce those ones. Every other letter is silent. So have another go. Lovely. Let's go for that one again, though. My turn, your turn. Everybody, deux. Un grand morceau de. Okay, lovely. Now we have something feminine. How do I know that the word portion is feminine? Chiara? It says une, lovely. Okay, and would you like to pronounce a portion of tomatoes for me, please? Anzal? We're getting quite good with this de now. Again, does anyone want to have a go at the T-I-O-N sound? It's a shun sound in English. We remember from last year that it's not a shun sound in French. It's very, very... Yusra, have a go. Perfect, well done. Portion, portion. So, une portion de tomates. That is a portion of tomatoes. A portion is just like an unspecified amount of something. Okay, it could be 3 tomatoes or it could be 5 tomatoes, depending on what kind of portion you need in different contexts. Show call is another brilliant strategy for ratio building. It allows teachers to display and discuss student work at any point in the lesson to facilitate global improvement. First, because students know that their work may be chosen at any time, both participation and accountability ratios naturally increase. Second, when a piece of work is displayed under the visualizer, thinking ratio is also enhanced because students are prompted to really engage with the work, critically evaluating it, and then thinking about what its strengths are too. Thirdly, after the work is displayed and discussed, students must analyse and improve their own work, a process which effectively integrates accountability in that the teacher is checking the extent to which the student engaged with the show call, thinking in that the student is having to think hard about how to improve their own work, and participation. By working through an example as a class beforehand, the process is modelled clearly, breaking down barriers to access and supporting engagement. Peps McRae's concept of stacking is an excellent way to maximise ratio by layering complementary strategies. For example, in a history lesson, a teacher might start with everybody writes for students to jot down their thoughts on a historical event, followed by a turn and talk for discussion, and then use cold call to share insights. This sequence ensures that every student is engaged, participation, every student deepens their understanding, thinking, and it ensures that students are held accountable for their contributions. So let's look at a clip of me now teaching a Year 10 French class. In this clip, you'll see how I stack show call with turn and talk and cold call to maintain a high ratio. In the lesson, I signal to the students beforehand that I'm going to be using show call with the aim of increasing participation and accountability ratio with a particularly challenging translation task. Once the work is under the visualizer, I use turn and talk so that students can work together and identify errors, but in a lower stakes environment. This is with a view to increasing thinking and participation. After this, I follow up with a cold call to ensure accountability around the turn and talk. It's here that you'll again notice the dynamic way with which I'm using the strategies. Because I identify at one point that students are struggling with a particularly challenging aspect of a tense, I'm conscious that we might be moving out of desirable difficulty and into a place where the work is actually just too hard. I know that when this happens, thinking and participation is severely affected. So to combat this, I quickly add in another turn and talk to help them work through the content in pairs before revisiting the issue. Here's the clip. I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to mark, just out of 3 now, these English translations. You're going to work in your pairs. So here are the translations. Yeah, there are a few errors. See if you can find them all. Off you go. In your pairs.
You put I was listening.
Questions around number 3 and there's an error in number 2. So we're going to ignore number 1. Number 2, what's the error? Shane, did you pick it out yourself? You did, exactly that. Capital letter on France. Can you check your own work? Circle it, tick it if you got it right. Okay. Next one. Je voyage en avion. I used to travel on plane. Issue there, please. Danielle? It should say, is Danielle's answer, I was travelling. Tracking me. I used to travel. I was travelling. Which one is correct? Why? Turn and talk. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video useful, please make sure to give it a like and subscribe to Open Source for more.